holding on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me. Just call on me.
All right, welcome in everybody to Sim Racing Media. Tonight we have Road and Plate back on another road course as they head to South America, to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Interlagos. I'm Mike Timoni up in the booth. Joined with me tonight is going to be Matt Metler. Matt, man, how's it going?
Mike, I am doing fan-freaking-tastic. As you mentioned, we're going to South America, Brazil, the place, and Road and Plate looking to do business as usual on another intricate and very challenging road courses here as we get strapped in, ready to go. And if it's not good enough, we're going to go ahead and just go off the script here and throw these competitors in these Craftsman trucks on a course they're typically not designed for. We're going to throw a little heat racing, and we're going to do a little field inversion as well, just to make it rather interesting, as we're currently watching Aaron Smith out there on the racetrack. No surprise that Chevrolet, the fastest truck in town, with a best lap out there of a 1:36.59. So he definitely knows how to get around this place.
Yeah, these guys had plenty of time to get their qualifying laps in. It is an open qualifying session here of a whole 55 minutes, so they're about to the end of it. Last week, Aaron Smith had to settle for second when they were at Portimao with Brian Molitor bringing home the win, but Aaron Smith is still leading the points by 33 right now, so they should be just about ready to wrap up here, and then we'll get that whole 15-minute heat race going, and then, as you mentioned, invert the top 10 and go back at it for another 35 minutes.
Yeah, last week, you brought up last week's race, and that was a showdown between Molitor and Smith. And I think they're going to have another installment in store for us here this evening. Is now we begin the gridding of heat race number 1 here from Brazil.
I was waiting for Aaron to get in his car, but he's be doing some little bit of adjustment there. But Aaron Smith, Brian Walter are going to be on the front row. Evan Hoopshack and Johnny Rapp make up row 2, row 3. Jay Bast and Dan Ott. Samuel Stoner and Laura Wiseman in row 4. Row 5, Paul Keck. And new driver, I believe, is Edgar Sancinelli. Tom Wendt and Ken Eastep are going to be in row 6. And it looks like Nick made it tonight, Nick Serif, as he is waiting on a child here momentarily. Wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make the race, but he is here for now.
Yeah, so that's going to give us 13 drivers set to take the green flag here in heat race number 1. And remember, so much on the line for these drivers here because, obviously the performance in this race dictates how the main event is going to go tonight. A lot like you'd see at your local short track Friday night style is this pace, is now the field gets set behind that iRacing.com Porsche, something I don't get to see every single day because I'm normally on Mike, I'm lost for words right now, on the NASCAR side of things, so we don't get to see this safety car a lot, you and I.
No, definitely do not. You don't get to see that GT3 style or maybe even leading the F1 cars around here. This is more of an F1 track. The Grand Prix down here has seen quite a bit of action, but it's going to be interesting to see what these trucks can do here. As you said, they're not exactly designed for this type of road course.
Well, I can tell you what, last week, that track wasn't prime placement for this truck either, but these guys put on a great show. Mike, I'll be interested to see how the tires interact with this pavement and then how the drivers have to adapt and adjust. Last week, multiple drivers and in the interview said if you spun these tires just a little bit, if you got those Goodyear Eagles too warm, it was very challenging to put the power down afterwards. So perhaps that's one thing for us to keep an eye on here is that field now gets rack stacked, ready to rock and roll. Wondering about the distance around this place. It's 2.68 miles, 15 turns, and you better hold your breath when you're under green flag conditions because things can happen quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah, it definitely can as that pace car gets ready to head down pit lane. And Evan Hoopshack moves up a spot as Aaron Smith pulls down pit lane. And the green flag is out, and already looks like Jay Bass, Johnny Rapp are trying to move towards the front here.
Big time move on the outside lane from Brian Molitor as he is side by side, door to door with the 7 of Evan Hoopshack. Remember, he was able to come up and join the Brian Molitor there on the front row as we see the 70 of Aaron Smith now exits pit lane in front of the field.
Yeah, Aaron Smith tried to start from pit road as Molitor just took the turn wide as he was following Smith, but Smith is slowly pulling away here.
Yeah, Smith is slowly pulling away here, but how about that move from Molitor? Goes down pit road, and then just when I thought he was going to go to the back of the pack, he squirts out in front of the field, and it's getting hot and heavy, Mike, right around this TRD-powered machine of Jay Bast as he's trying to best right now Johnny Rapp, and just in front of them, he has Evan Hoopcha in that second place position. Bast already on a tear as he's up 2 positions early in this one.
Yeah, Jay Bass pulled down to the inside, tried to make a move as they were coming up the hill to that start-finish line, and now he is all over the back of Hoopshack. And you have some battling back towards the back as it looks like Tom Wendt went around in that 28 machine, but he is back on track. Nick Sharif also off track there in that 67 Chevy.
I'm not sure what caused those two trucks to go off course, Mike. Perhaps they had a little contact between them, but those trucks still look like they're in great shape. You can see now the 67 of Nick Sharef up to speed. However, he has lost a lot of time between himself and Ken Estep, the guy he's chasing down, currently in that 9th place position. Tom went as well in that 66. In that Ford F-150 EcoBoost, has a lot of ground to make up as well.
It looks like the 67 went off track one more time. He's trying to get that truck back under him here, but a little rough there as it looks like Phil Keck went off, almost off track there as well, coming out of the pit lane area there.
As he comes off a pit lane, you know, Mike, I was taking a look quickly at the track temperature. Only 71 degrees Fahrenheit. So last week we had a track that was on the spicy side of the spectrum. This week we're kind of just the opposite. 70 degrees. These Dr. Feelgoods really won't be making maximum grip for a couple laps because of that track temperature being so low. So perhaps that's throwing a curveball at some of these drivers in the early going.
Yeah, definitely. As we look at the tower here, got just over 11 minutes left. Molitor, Hoopshack, Jay Bast, all right there, 1, 2, 3. The position to watch, though, is definitely going to be this battle back. Oh, it's Jay Bast just went into the fence. Still going in the right direction, though, but
that was like the road course reenaction of the Hail Melon.
not exactly sure what is going on here, but
You seeing that too, Mike?
yeah.
Okay, I'm confused myself.
It looks like now we're back in order here as Molitor and Hoopshack and Jay Bast are all the top 3. Johnny Rapp running P4. Dan Ott and Samuel Stoner. Laura Wiseman. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Good.
Edgar Sancinelli there in that 8th place position. Well, Aaron Smith, he's lost one with the scoring pylon since the drop of the green flag. He resides in 9th. Ken Estep up 2 positions. That's going to put him inside the top 10. Holding down 11th. That's going to be the 888s of Phil Keck. And Tom Wendt, who we seen moments ago, had an off-track incident there in that Toyota machine, is 12th. And Nick Sharef in that Chevrolet Martin Truex Jr. paint scheme throwback on that truck is going to round out the 13 competitors out there on the racetrack, Mike.
Looking at the lap times. And that 4 Toyota is flying around the track. 1:37.7 is his best time, and also his last lap time. And then Hoopshack back there with the 1:38. So close,
yeah, like
but
the mark.
it's getting close, but it's still pulling away from each other.
Yeah, it's starting to get spaced out a little bit here, and obviously this is probably a racetrack. The more seat time you put in here, the better you're going to be, especially for a driver like me that's never even thought about turning a lap here. Mike, could you imagine if I was out there in competition? I'd probably be in the sand more than David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, I definitely think I would be joining you there, as you know, both of us taking a look here at the track pretty much for our first time when we were watching their qualifying session before we got on the air here.
You know, I can tell you this, I'm really impressed. I don't know who makes the setups for these trucks, but they're getting really good balance, especially being these tight, intricate sections right now where you see, you know, Brian Molitor, as we're following our leader right now. You know, that truck is really planted into the racing surface. You're not seeing the back step out underneath that truck or the nose plowing into the corner. You know, that tells me that that truck is really, you know, engraved into that racing surface. And that's certainly what you want if you're going to be putting up lap times like he is right now.
Yeah, he's still putting down pretty decent lap times. The guy who's probably one of the fastest on track, if not the fastest, is Aaron Smith. Aaron was having connection issues at the beginning of the race, elected to start from pit lane. brought it down pit lane on lap 1 to try and give himself a little bit of gap on the field so he didn't wind up taking anybody out. But he is back on track, and he is running some lightning quick times, 137.53. So he is a couple tenths faster than our leader right now.
Yeah, let's see, 137.53, as you mentioned, to a 138.31. So definitely Aaron Smith has the pace in that truck to be contending for the lead if he was further, further up in the running order right now. But how about Evan Hubchak? I mean, last time by a 138.33, clearly that F-150 EcoBoost variation has some speed underneath that hood as well tonight. Mike, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he is definitely moving in the right direction. I mean, you look at the lap times, and he is staying right there with the 4 of Brian Molter. And it is going to it is hard to do. I've seen guys try and do it watching this series, and it's something to to be there.
Yeah, it's something to be there, and then it's going to be another level if you're on board the one piloting, these high horsepowered machines around this tight and intricate race course. You continue to watch there the 7 of Evan Hubchak, and again, remains to be very consistent, around this very intricate course as we see him go across the start-finish line. And then he has to downshift and into this heavy braking zone right here. Mike, I imagine that's a corner is really easy to miss if you ain't careful.
Yeah, and it's not like a complete corner. It's almost a quick little S there. And then you get back on and you have more of a sweeping left-hander as you head down one of the straighter parts of the course here. And then, make that left-hand turn once again, and then you head towards the S's.
And you can see there's a lot of elevation change here. At least that's what it looks like from up here in the broadcast booth. When you're going uphill, these trucks make a lot more downforce. But when you transition to that downhill, it's really easy for that truck to get light, especially under braking conditions, and if you're having to throw wheel input at it, like in this sector of the race course right here, and Evan's making it look easy.
Yeah, you said that elevation change. When you do head down the downhill portion, I'm going to say that's probably where you're either going to see a lot of passing or a lot of mistakes. Because like I said, it gets light in that back end, and if you start to brake, it's going to go around pretty quickly on you.
And remember, these trucks don't have the benefit of a multi-link rear independent suspension like these next gens do. So it's really easy to wheel hop these things, or much worse, lock up those tires. And once you do that, forget about it. It's taken off like a ski on you. And I believe that's what may have happened there to Jay Bast in the 53, just as we were talking about it, as he has now dropped back almost to that. In fact, he is now in that 8th place position, Mike.
Yeah, that's the nice thing, though, about the way they run this series. This first little heat race, all it does is set you up for the feature. And if you're fairly quick, you might want to try and maybe, I'll say sandbag just a little bit to try and get closer to that P10 spot so you can start towards the front of the feature. But these guys are definitely trying to make some ground here. Phil Keck in the 888s is currently running in P10 right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the money position right there now. Go figure, he's got 888s on that race truck, something you'd see in Las Vegas perhaps. So he's going high stakes all out there. Oh, big time drift mode as he comes off the corner there. Back of that Chevrolet steps out on him a little bit, but that's a great point, Mike. We do something a little extra here to make it that much more interesting, and we invert the top 10. So even though he currently runs in that 10th place position, when it becomes game time, for that main event, if we ended this right now, Phil Keck would be sitting on the front row, P1, when we take the green flag.
Oh, and Bali checking in on the chat as usual. not in the session. Probably had some vacation planned because this was supposed to be the All-Star race, but saying that Phil Keck won this race in season 1 that they were doing it. So
I want to thank Justin for stopping by, and he was balling last week. Had a chance to talk to him after the race was over. Sorry he's not out there in competition tonight, but look forward to seeing him back on the racetrack real soon as we continue to keep an eye on Phil Keck here in that 888 position. And perhaps, like Justin said, one to watch. He knows how to get it done around here clearly, Mike.
It'll be interesting to see how these tires and stuff hold up when they get to that little bit longer session, because everybody's going to have this 15 minutes of track time, and they're going to kind of know what they have to improve on or where they might have to improve.
Well, and the other great thing is, too, you actually get to go out there in race conditions, just get an idea of how, your competition's going to race around you. And yes, these drivers do get a lot of practice against each other. But even over on the NASCAR side of things, Mike, when you're out there in practice conditions, you just don't really get, the full taste of what another driver's going to throw at you when the green flag's out and it's all on the line. And I think that's another great thing about these heat races. You get a chance to really shake out the other competitors out there on the racetrack. And then what you said, your point, if there's something you don't like, you have an opportunity to work on it before the main event as well.
Yeah, as we're getting inside the 2 minutes, looks like we're probably going to have a couple laps left here. Moulter is pulling away. He's got over a 4-second lead now over Evan Hubschak.
Last week, Aaron Smith was so fast, he actually forced an additional lap. It almost made some guys run out of fuel in the process, including himself, by forcing that extra lap. That's something else we need to keep an eye on as well. Maybe that could happen again.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be close. We might have 2 to go because I believe he's probably going to get to the start-finish line before time runs out. So that'll give us, I believe, 2 laps to go, because when time runs out, you'll get the white flag.
Right.
So it'll be close. As you can see where he is headed through basically the final sharp turn before he heads through the sweeping left-handers headed to the start-finish line. So see if he's going to get there right before, or if he's going to slow down just enough to make this the final lap.
It seemed like he was going hard.
It's going to be close.
At the line, survey says
2 to go.
2 to go. Well, I could tell the way he was coming off the corner. He was using the grass like Earnhardt. So he was not trying to back down. At least that didn't seem like he was trying to hold back, Mike.
Yeah, no, he was definitely not. He was trying to get that extra lap, get a little more time here. So in a 15-minute session, they're going to wind up going basically 11 laps, it looks like. It looks like, oh no, Aaron's just having his connection issues.
Yeah, that's been, a storyline, throughout, the past, week or so with iRacing, at least from my perspective. Ever since Crowdsource had that issue, it just seems like, the internet connection in general across the country is affected at some point in time or another, as we'll see various drivers that never blink have their own issues throughout the course of the race, as Brian Molitor, just a very dominant and commanding drive here in this one. A little bit of fall off though, Mike. If you look at his best lap, which was a 1:37.70, last time by a 1:39.37. So a little more fall off than I thought we would see.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that. And I mean, going back through the field, Aaron Smith, his best time was a 1:37. His last lap was 1:39.60. So Looks like white flag in the air.
Yeah, Barney has that white flag in the air flying high, so that means.
No, that was.
Go ahead, Mike.
I won't say that's thing checkered.
Was that the checkered?
Yeah.
I saw white too, but we'll go with it. So that's going to indeed be the checkered flag. So that's going to hand the victory to Brian Molitor in the 4. Evan Hubchuk going to come home 2nd. Dan Ott 3rd. Aaron Smith the 2nd is going to come home 4th. Laura Wiseman, great drive from her, comes home 5th. Samuel Stoner, Jay Bass, Johnny Rapp, Edgar Sancheli, Tom Ween round out the top 10. Phil Keck comes home 11th. 12th belongs to Ken Estep. And 13th, the final driver to come across the green flag, or come across the checkered flag, green flag, Nick Saraf, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get a hold of our heat winner here. Hey, Brian, Mike, and Matt up in the booth, man. How's it going?
Good. How about you guys?
Well, not too bad. Well, it looked like you were putting down some pretty quick laps here. How is the track out there?
Track was pretty slick. I think it might have slicked up a little more than qualifying, either that or just the tires were wearing out. You know, not a lot of straight here, turning a lot.
Yeah, definitely turning a lot. I mean, usually when we come to a place like this, you get to see the F1 or GT3 cars or some of that nature. How is this track different when you run the trucks?
Yeah, there's a couple corners here when you're in a Formula car you don't even think about that you definitely have to give some respect to in the truck. It's a whole different ball game.
Definitely. Well, how do you plan on attacking this feature race here since you're starting back towards the back of the field here?
Very carefully, I think, is the answer. There's going to be a lot of room for people to make mistakes, so I'll just sit back and wait for people to make mistakes. Probably not going to push it too hard. Can't wait too long, though, because Aaron's starting a little further up the field, and I know he's got good pace, so he'll rip through the field, and he'll start building a gap if I'm not right behind him, so we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. The story of the race is probably going to be his internet connection, as he had to come down, or started from the pits and then came down again and still wound up in pretty decent position. But you were able to drive away with the heat race. I'll let you get back to warming up your truck here before we get racing in the heat or in the feature race.
All right, gents, enjoy the feature.
That was Brian, winner of the heat race there. So, Matt, after 15 minutes, what are your thoughts going into this feature race?
Well, I love the feedback we got for our interview, and he said basically to be patiently fast. How do you do that out there on a racetrack? Because obviously, he said things are going to happen in front of you, so he wants to be patient. He doesn't want to be in the extracurricular activities, obviously, so he wants to take his time. But as he mentioned, that 70 machine going to be out there in Brian Molitor going to be out there in competition as well, and he knows he has pace in that truck, so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. The other thing, which we also got from the interview, Mike, is that tire fall off. That's a great point he made. There's not a lot of straight sectors of this race course. There's a lot of elevation changes. There's a lot of uphill and downhill. And I think that's going to add another layer, to this feature. That's going to be how well can you manage the tires over the course of this run. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a thing going on here. They do have unlimited tires, but 75% fuel. We'll see what these guys can do when they get set back up. And it looks like Phil Keck had a little issue on the last part here. Let's see if let's
I was gonna say, let's see if we could get a hold of him, but doesn't look like we'll have enough time as they are already gridding up here. Go through the grid real quick. Looks like Tom Wendt was able to get that P10, so he will start on the pole. Edgar Sancinelli just to his outside. Johnny Rapp, Jay Bast. In row 2, row 3 is going to be Samuel Stoner and Laura Wiseman. Aaron Smith and Dan Ott. In row 4, row 5, Evan Hoopshak and Brian Moulter. We got Phil Keck and Ken Estep. And starting shotgun on the field, going to be Nick Seraph again.
And that's going to be the grid here. The starting grid is that field that now continues, or I should say starts to roll behind that Iracing.com pace car. Mike, how about the paint scheme on that 28? Reminds me of Davey Allison, Robert Yates Racing from back in the 90s, early 2000s as we go on board with that Toyota. That's what keeps messing with me, because obviously that was a Ford team, but here in Road and Plate, that's associated with a TRD badge. And outside of him, obviously, Edgar Sancinelli, they're going to make up the front row. So TRD on Toyota action here going to be on display. And then don't forget, you got the hard-charging Ford of Samuel Stoner, Jay Bast, who's going to try to best him. I promise you on this restart, he's been fun to watch on the drop of the green flag. Laura Wiseman here is going to have a great starting position. Interested to see how she's going to perform. And then don't forget about keeping your eyes on Brian Molitor, who's going to roll off 9th, one to watch. And then obviously everyone's going to have their eyes on the 70 of Aaron Smith as well, Mike.
Yeah, you're going to want to definitely watch the 70 as he starts a little bit closer to the front than Moulter does. But they are going to be battling probably pretty quickly here. We'll see how fast Moulter and Hoopshak and Smith can get through the field. Pace car makes that left-hand turn. Tom Wendt ready to get the action started here as Palmrat Golf Road and Plate is underway.
Road and Plate is underway, and I thought it was looking like we were going to see an air show 4-5 wide into turn number 1 again. Instead, we go 2 by 2, and look who is already on the move. Where did Aaron Smith come from? That 70 is suddenly in the lead of this race. He just pulled the Houdini. Unbelievable, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know what happened on the start of the race, but we're not even through a couple corners, and Smith is already leading.
They might want to tech that machine for a flux capacitor. I don't think I've ever seen quite anything like that. Is suddenly Aaron Smith being shown up 6 positions in the lead. Jay Bass now up 2 spots to that 2nd place position, and Brian Molitor in that Toyota now in that 3rd and final podium position as it's getting hot and heavy out there on the racetrack, right around that 6th place position, Mike.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's kind of settled down. Let's see if we can go back and take a look here at the drop of the green flag. On the chopper cam.
This was just wild.
Pace car in. Jay Bass goes to the middle. Aaron Smith down to the inside. Hoopshak follows him through. And there goes Moulter down there as well. 3 wide through turn 1. Wow.
That, you don't see restarts like that every day. I mean, the 53 goes up the sucker hole, usually the spot everyone avoids. He uses it to his advantage. And then Aaron Smith just looks like he has 200 horsepower more than everybody, as he's able to get a great restart there. Then he's able to bast through those first technical sections of the racetrack, and voila, Aaron Smith to the lead and already putting up a half-second advantage over Bast in the 53.
That definitely took some guts to drive it down towards the wall on that restart there, or on the initial start. And Bast went right to the middle. Saw him move up pretty quickly in the heat race as well. Let's see if he's going to be able to capitalize here after making a mistake late in the race as he faded back a little ways.
Well, that could be just it, too. You know, these drivers got to see and got to experience firsthand about this tire fall off. And, you know, maybe it was a little more than some of these drivers were accounting for. And that could be part of the reason where we saw all that intensity here on the initial start of the race. Brian Molitor, no surprise, look who's up 7 positions. Now inside the top 3 as he's currently working just inches off the back of Vast in that second place position.
He's trying to find a way around Bast. Those guys barely get their right sides in the grass as they almost look like they cut, like they're headed towards pit lane as they're cutting that corner so close to that pit wall. Go on board here with Molitor.
You know, this giving you a great bird's eye view, just how technical and how narrow, you know, especially certain sectors of this racetrack are. You can see this a hard left hand downhill as well. You got to be really careful here. You see the truck get free, all that corrective input Molitor's got to put in on the wheel. As we're on board with him, Mike, look who just went fastest lap of the race. Phil Keck in the 888s goes a 1:38.04.
Yeah, we heard in the chat from Dustin there that Keck was a guy to watch. He wound up making a little mistake at the end of that heat race, cost him P10, but he is already up 5 spots, running P6 right now and looking for more as he's closing in on Dan Ott for P5.
Yeah, he is lurking literally right off the tailgate of the 29 ride. You know, one of the things you can do in a place like this, Mike, if you're Keck, you can try to get Dan Ott to start mirror driving a little bit, see if you can make him miss the corner. And it only takes a little bit of an opening because this racetrack, you know, it isn't very forgiving. You don't have a lot of width to work with. You miss that line, this place will bite you. And Phil Keck looking to capitalize should he make that mistake.
Yeah, definitely looking for something as he's trying to work his way through the downhill, trying to close that gap as we see. I think that downhill portion there of that S turn is going to be a spot we see passing later in the race.
Yeah, especially as these tires start to wear as well, because, you know, throttle control has to be ever so critical, especially in that portion of the racetrack, as it seems like right now Phil Keck is very comfortable just riding perhaps behind Dan Ott in that 29. Going to go further up the scoring pylon here. You see the 53 of Bast get off track just a little bit there. No harm, no foul, as he still has the 2 leaders in sight. They're about 3 to 4 truck lengths ahead of him at times as he currently runs in that 3rd place position. Lap times, Mike, are competitive. He just ran a 38.10 compared to a 38.26 and a 38.19. So last time by, he was actually fastest in the top 3.
Yeah, the top 4 are all within less than probably 0.05 of each other at the moment. So I don't know that that they'll have enough fuel to make it to the end. You know, that's one of the things that we really don't know. They know as they, you know, ran that 50-minute time limit. So we'll see if anybody's going to have to pit or if everybody's going to have to pit.
I'll tell you what, if you're running lap times like Brian Molitor out there, that's not saving any of the midnight oil, as he just ran a 1:37.97. So first driver in this feature in the 1-minute 37-second bracket, as he just decided it was time to fire the afterburner, and he just took off.
Yeah, I think what caused that is Aaron Smith decided to come down pit lane, and he is just getting back on track. So You saw Aaron Smith elect to go down, so Aaron's trying to maybe do a little short pitting here. And then you have Moulter going to do just the opposite, try and drive the wheels off this Ford Toyota and pit later in the run, try and build up as much as he can to make up for pitting late there.
I think that's a great catch, Mike, and I'm on board with you. I think that's exactly what happened. Well, you know, if we see Aaron Smith already down pit road, that's going to tell me they probably don't have enough go fast in this tank to go the distance. You know, my question is, obviously, Aaron Smith is now going to put himself in a little bit of a hole. These tires, we've heard from the drivers and we've seen it out there on the racetrack, they are a factor. So how does he manage the use of these tires? Does he have enough to get there to contend with Molitor? So many questions we're going to have to get the answers to as this race progresses. But hey, Molitor's not done. He just clicked off another hot one. This time even faster, a 1:37.88. Absolutely incredible out of Brian Molitor.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. He's like, all right, you're going to pit. I'm going to go nuclear here and take this Ford machine as fast as I can. And honestly, if I'm Brian, I think I try and make it at least to halfway. That way you have, you know, basically the same amount of tires, you know, for both halves of the race. But he may wait and go, you know, with 10 minutes to go or something.
Right, you know, perhaps he's trying to get, you know, the good out of those good years right now. And, you know, obviously everyone's tires are going to equalize at some point. So, you know, he could be looking at that as well. How far out ahead can he get before these tires do start to plateau as we continue to watch? Now, Jay Bast, who continues to, you know, run lap times right where he's virtually been since the drop of the green flag, that last time by 1:38.55. So not seeing as much fall off so far through this race as we had, you know, in that heat race. Perhaps this track starting to get a little rubber in it as well, which could also be affecting things out there on the racing surface.
Brian came down pit lane, so that's going to leave Jay Bast and Evan Hoopshak out there. Bast going to try and lead a lap here.
All right, so, and indeed, this should, if everything goes according to plan for Bast, he should lead this lap next time they come by the start and finish line. However, Evan Hoopjak is certainly challenging. He is going to keep him honest here as he is within striking distance of the 53. And I think we got the final answer to the story, Mike, that really puts the nail in the coffin as far as your strategy and theory goes. He saw him come down pit road. I'm going to get everything out of these tires before I come down pit road and put new tires on it. And I think he hit the nail right on the head as far as, you know, referring to the 4 of Molitor and then the 70 of Aaron Smith go.
Yeah, and if you look at the gap between them right now, Molitor is a little over a second and a half in front of Aaron Smith. You can see him kind of in the screenshot as Smith is behind Laura Wiseman. Looks like he's going to try and get by her coming through this next corner here.
You also, you know, heard these drivers emphasize patience. So you got to be careful not to, you know, I don't want to say overstep the boundary, but don't force something that isn't there just yet. Still have plenty of time to go in this one before it is all said and done. And just as I say that, what a move by Aaron Smith as he just set it on the high side there around Laura Wiseman. You've seen that truck start to step out a little bit. He was literally, like they said in Days of Thunder, loses fast and on the verge of out of control. He was literally a mere probably half a mile an hour for that back end saying, so long, I'm out of here, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing about the pit stops of both Brian and Aaron, both of them went fuel only. Aaron was only in his pit box for 5.10 seconds. Molitor, 4.33. So they definitely did not have enough time to throw even half a set of tires on there.
Well, that's really interesting now. So that's telling me that these drivers think they have enough Goodyear to go the distance here. I thought for sure we would see some of these drivers at least take, right side tires or left side tires, but no. The two fastest trucks out there on the racetrack just said, give me enough Sunoco racing fuel to get me to the end, and I'll manage everything from the cockpit of my race truck. As Molitor continues to run in that 6th place position, up 4 spots from where he started. If you're wondering about Phil Keck in the 888, remember, Bally told us he won this race last year. He is now snuck into that 4th place position, up 7 spots. So clearly, he's still out there being very competitive as well, Mike.
Yeah, he definitely is. As these guys log some laps here, they've made 8 laps working on number 9. 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes left here in this feature race. So it's going to be interesting to me to see who tries to get P3, if somebody's going to try and just take fuel only and manage their tires, or if somebody is going to be able to take a set of tires and use them to their full advantage to run up and get on the podium here.
Right. Well, the other question is if a majority of these drivers are only taking fuel, Mike, then you have to consider how much longer do you have to stay on pit road to get those new tires put on your truck, and then how long is it going to take you to run them back down? This could be just the case of, hey, the leader controls and commands this race, and by him not taking tires, perhaps that's written everyone else's playbook if they want to have a shot at it, per se. Remember, we don't have the stage breaks here. We don't have full course cautions either. So really nothing in the foreseeable future of this race that's going to basically wad the field back up on top of each other either.
No, and the other thing, as we are a little over 15 minutes in to this session, some of these guys, if they make it a little bit further, they don't have to fill that truck up completely. They can do some calculations and try and see, how much fuel they have to have. So maybe they can be on pit road for a little less time, and maybe that's what's going to wind up giving them the podium as well.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point, Mike. And we've seen earlier on in the season that fuel saving and that fuel saving strategy can absolutely be a huge critical factor here into who wins and places on the podium. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that developing story as well, as Jay Bass continues to carry the torch here in Brazil from South America. He's currently enjoying a 2.3 second advantage over the 29 of Dan Ott, who's currently up 6 positions from where he started in that F-150. Raw speed on the truck, and he's had raw speed on that track, Mike.
And he was able to get by Shack, as that 7 Ford is still hanging on to that rear bumper, trying to work his way around. One of the other fast guys on track, Phil Keck, is not too far behind, up 7 spots. So we are watching to see when these guys are going to elect to come down pit lane. And Aaron Smith came down on lap 4, so they can go for quite a while still before they have to make that pit stop.
See, now comes hard into that braking zone. Again, just working, 2 to 3 truck lengths behind that 7 of Evan Hubcha, who now resides in that 3rd place position. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us here live on SRM, top of the broadcast, the HMFIC head cook, chief, and bottle washer of the league, Dustin Bally, joined us in the YouTube live chat, and he's basically almost called this pick. He said Phil Keck won this last year. He is certainly one to watch in this race. And Mike, so far, he has not let him down at all. I mean, he is right on track and right on pace to throw his hat into the mix of potential winners of this race, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's definitely running fairly well. Jay Bass also running pretty well. We saw a huge move on the initial restart that allowed him and Aaron Smith to head towards the front. Aaron Smith and Brian Walter both elected to pit early in this race. Smith on lap 4 and Walter on lap 6. But they are running times almost 2 seconds faster than the leaders are right now.
Yeah, that just goes to show you perhaps our leaders are just saving a little bit right now. But you are absolutely right. They are indeed quicker and a lot faster. And you've seen a little bit of that tire smoke come, flying up into the air from some of these trucks just in front of them. And that's another indication that these guys are getting everything they can. Is now here comes Phil Keck. He's going to give up his position on the racetrack as he comes down, has his pit box in his sights. Remember, don't want to roll over that line. That's going to cost you critical time. Beautiful stop here. And it looks like tires going on that Silverado.
It looks like he elected to have some tires put on, which is kind of what I was thinking somebody's going to have to take a chance and do. And he is in and out of his box.
So in and out of his box, back out onto the racetrack, and there we go. So there's the first driver that decides to take tires. We're going to have to see how what type of an advantage that gives the triple eights. As now Jay Bass continues to lead. That gap continues to grow ever so slightly as it's now approaching 1 second over Dan Ott. In that EcoBoost F-150, you see him just coming into the picture there. And Evan Hubchak is really starting to apply the pressure, turning up the excitometer inside the 29.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that. Let's go and check on Keck as he spent a ton of time on pit lane. Looks like he spent 16 seconds, so I'm going to say he took a complete set, all 4 on that ride. And now he is 23 seconds behind Aaron Smith right now.
Yeah, 23 seconds. That is a lot of time to make up out there on the racetrack. And as you were talking about Phil Keck's 4-tire stop on pit road, someone was off in the grass. I'm not sure if that was Ken Estep or Tom Went perhaps, but somebody went 4x4 and didn't see him make contact with anything, but that'll certainly cost you a lot of critical time out there. As we see a change for position here now, is here comes Tom Went making his way around the 67, being piloted by Nick Shariff.
Looks like Bass is starting to feel a little pressure here from Dan Ott. Dan Ott closing in. Both of these drivers, looks like their rear tires are slowly going away, as you can see them slipping and sliding as they head around these corners.
Yeah, I really thought these guys were just managing their equipment, but perhaps that was not the case, and they were all out going full send. And you're right, Mike, you can see the grip, especially in the rear of these trucks, is starting to dwindle quick, fast, and in a hurry. You can see every time they come out of these corners, when they try to put the power down, you can see them starting to do the jig. So that's only going to get worse as this run continues to go on.
Yeah, and if you're the top 3, you've got to have one eye kind of on that rearview mirror, as here comes Moulter and Smith, and they are less than 2.5 seconds back from the lead group right now.
Yeah, can you imagine if you're Evan peeking up in your rear view mirror and you see the 4 in the 70, or excuse, yeah, the 4 of the 70, you got it right, the Foos type. Oh, we got big problems. Hubchak goes off and kisses the guardrail. Hopefully didn't get a lot of damage there. In fact, that truck looks pretty good, but definitely made some contact there with the 7 as our first incident really of this feature race unfolds right in front of us.
Yeah, it looked like he just overdrove the corner just a little bit, maybe got on the throttle a little bit too much, headed through the S's there as he spins around again. That downhill braking zone is playing nightmares here for that 7 Ford.
Yeah, one of the areas we highlighted at the top of the broadcast, and I apologize, folks. I didn't realize we'd flipped to replay. I thought he overheated the tires and lost it again, but that was going back to the original incident that he had out there on the racetrack. And I'll tell you what, Jay Bast is having to put down perfect laps right now because Dan Ott has caught him. In fact, last time by, Ott was almost a half a second faster than the 53 of Bass. So certainly he's starting to really apply some pressure to the leader.
Yeah, check in again on Keck as he is running some pretty quick laps. 138.23 the last time by.
Yeah, 138. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I'll say he's faster than Smith and Moulter.
And remember, this driver elected to put those 4 fresh Dr. Feelgoods on that truck. The question is that I have, does he have enough time to take advantage of those fresh Goodyears on that Silverado? Certainly, he's going to drive it like he stole it. You can see just how aggressive he's able to get into that corner, where some of these other drivers that elected to go fuel only really have to start to tiptoe and almost drive like they're on snow, especially in these technical downhill portions of this race course.
Yeah, you got Bast and Ott, who have not pitted yet. We'll see how short they're going to be. Got 10 minutes left in the session.
You don't think they could save enough fuel, do you?
I don't. I think they're probably going to wind up being a couple laps short at least. And that has to be what both Moulter and Smith were thinking as they came in on lap 4 and 6. So just had to get a little bit of splash to go. But these guys up front, Ott and Bast, have been putting down some pretty decent laps. So I don't think they were trying to save fuel that much.
Yeah, I'm not either. But, I don't, these drivers always, seem to have a little extra up their sleeve from what I've learned over the course of this season, as it continues to be Jay Bast out here leading from Brazil, South America, the place. Road and plate on track in this place, and they are putting down a clinic here tonight in primetime here live on SRM. Brian Molitor, Aaron Smith continue to run nose to tail as they have now climbed into the top 5. In fact, Mike, Brian Molitor now in 3rd.
Yeah, Moulter 3rd, Smith 4th, and Samuel Stoner is back here in 5th, and he's going to have Phil Keck, as you see Keck coming out of the corner to contend with momentarily. Keck is on a tear right now. 138.63 was his last lap to Moulter's 138.93, so is a little bit quicker. We'll see if he's going to have time to close in here with 8.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, so that clock continues to wind down, probably faster than Phil Keck would like to see. But looking at the timing and scoring, Mike, something last lap did not go right for Samuel Stoner as he clocked in almost 10 seconds slower, a 149.04. So perhaps the 65 had an off-track moment. Something went amiss in the 65 camp on that last lap.
Yeah, it looks like the way he's been running his lap times, he's been slower in general, and I think he's probably the guy that is sitting there trying to save fuel, save a couple laps maybe, and hope that, Jay Bast and Dan Ott have to come down pit lane, and he's able to pick up the pieces here and maybe sneak away with a P3.
Hey, whatever you got to do to get those ever so critical points out there on the racetrack. And sometimes if you just don't have the raw speed to compete with them, letting the guys up on the pit box do their job to find a way, a strategy to get you up there inside the top 3, top 4. Hey, I'm all about that, Mike, and perhaps that's exactly what's going on inside the 65 camp as he continues to run in that 5th place position.
As we move back up to the front 4, they are closer together than we would have thought they would become here towards the end of this race, as Bast and Ott have kind of pulled a little bit of some pit strategy here, wind up in front of Malter and Smith. And the guy who has got to be loving this is the guy in the Triple 8s. Anything that can slow them down.
And they certainly are being slowed down right now. I mean, they have caught them, the 2 leaders, and they have been almost, blockaded, behind the 29 and the 53. They don't have the luxury of having fresh tires on those race trucks, so they don't have as much faith as they would if they had new tires about trying to outbrake them in the corner or trying to make it fit in one of these technical spots on the racetrack. And you can see how it's like a train here now of 4 trucks in line here, as they're basically Noah's Ark situation here on top of each other.
Yeah, Brian Walter pulls down to the inside, going to try and take advantage of the downhill section, and he will get by Dan Ott, put Dan Ott between himself and Smith, and now he is looking to get by Jay Bast. The 67s to their outside. Bast slides up in front, goes back down in front of Malter, and Bast hangs on.
I thought the 53 and the 67 were going to make contact there. Boy, I'm glad I was wrong, because I thought that was about to be big right at the front of this thing. And, I was just saying, like, these guys being cautious. Just as I said that, Brian Molitor takes advantage of that downhill portion of the racetrack, swings it out wide, and sends it around the 29 there of Ott. So that's going to move him back to 3rd. And now Aaron Smith has a barrier between himself and Molitor. And Dan Ott is the cream filling in that Oreo sandwich right now as he continues to stalk the back of the 29.
Yeah, Molitor trying to run a little bit different line to get by Bast. Bast still hanging on here. Gets those right side tires in the grass. As you can see, everybody kind of clipping that as they head down the front stretch here.
It looks like they had a. I was just gonna say, it looks like they had a grass edging company out there just trimming that portion of the grass out, as they seem to clip that every single time they come off that corner.
I seem to find just the right spot, and it looks like, Smith goes a little wide there.
Elbow.
Malter gonna go down to the inside on the downhill portion, take advantage of the braking zone, and he will go to the front. Bast gonna try and battle back as Malter goes wide.
He's gonna try to get it done on the outside of the racetrack again, and does.
Yes, Smith.
What a move.
I would say Smith going to the outside of the 29 machine, trying to get past, and is still side by side. 2 by 2 they go.
2 by 2, side by side, door to door through this very tight, intricate portion of the racetrack. The 4 is going to duck back in behind now. I think he tried the crossover maneuver there. Ooh, you see the 53 lock up. Oh, he slides. It goes drift mode. How are they still side by side? What a piece of driving by Jay Bast. I thought that miscue cost him the lead, but somehow he's able to keep Molitor behind him.
Molitor trying everything he can, trying to get Bast between himself and Smith. He knows Smith is the driver he's going to have to look out for, but he has got to be trying to get by Bast as quick as possible. Bast has to be running on maybe a couple laps left of fuel, so you never know when he's going to be able to, or when he's going to run out. Malter goes down to the inside, tries to pass once again, headed through the downhill braking zone. Looks like Bast might have overdrove the corner just a little bit, but Malter takes advantage. Bast stays in P2.
Yeah, Bast stays in P2, and you can see him getting big time loose coming out of that corner as he puts the hammer down. That's going to allow Aaron Smith now to check the box. He's going to move up the scoring pylon into P2. So now Molitor and Smith have made their drive through the field. Pit stop's already done. So now it's going to be a showdown between Smolder and Smith. The next question I have, Mike, did Jay Bast and company have enough fuel to go the distance, or do they have to come down pit road and pit? And while all this is going on, where is Phil Keck in this ordeal? And he's actually slid back one position to that 6th spot now. And he's about 9.5 seconds off the lead.
He has got to find a way to make some time here. But as we do that, look back up to P3-4 as Bast and Ott are continuing to battle as Moulter and Smith pull away. Gonna have a couple laps left to go as Bast goes a little bit further on the dirt, like white flag in the air. But will they have enough fuel?
Will they have enough fuel? And remember, last time by, Mike, Barney got us. We thought it was the white flag, and it turned out to be the checkered flag. So I went back and verified it. White flag in the air. Brian Molitor, can he be perfect one more time around this 2.65 mile road course here in the heart of Brazil? Or does lightning strike twice somewhere? Do we have some type of melee that breaks out here on the final lap? There's so many different strategies now taking shape as Brian Molitor was able to overcome the invert. Clearly had the right recipe for pitting when he did, and was able to take it to the point, and now slowly starting to pull away from Aaron Smith, Mike, who's about 1.2 seconds back.
Yeah, Aaron Smith is fading back just a little ways. Jay Bass, Dan Ott are still battling here for the final podium spot, as it looks like Phil Keck is going to run out of time, but he is going to get a P5 unless these guys run out of fuel here as they're coming through the final corners. Moulter's going to take the win. Aaron Smith,
What a win.
Jay Bass, Dan Ott, and Phil Keck is going to come home P5.
I'll tell you what a drive from these guys. I mean, they literally had to be perfect out there on this racetrack. Mike, it was a lot closer to the competition than what we thought. I know me personally, I thought they were going to stretch themselves out a little bit, but that clearly wasn't the case. And that what came down to be the winning. Oh, my. I don't know if I just glitched out or if that actually happened, but that was a wall ride X game style from Phil Keck. As I completely lost my train of thought. I have no idea where I was going with that, Mike.
I don't either, because all of a sudden Phil floored it and did not make the corner.
Perhaps that's how he celebrates the top 5. I can only imagine what he does if he gets a win. But Brian Molitor here, I remember where I was going with this. Now, he had the right strategy. Remember, he was one of the guys that came down early in this race, fuel only. So he spent a minimum amount of time on pit road and was able to take care of those good years just enough to edge out Aaron Smith, who finished on his heels. But what a drive once again from the driver of this Toyota Tundra. He is tough to beat here out on the road courses.
Yeah, he definitely is. He had all the right moves, but see if we can get you the 3rd place finisher, because I know there is a question we have got to ask. If we can get Jay up here in the booth for you, Matt. See. I'll drag him down for you, and here you go.
Jay, Matt, and Mike up in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth. You got a copy there, bud?
Yes, I do. Howdy, howdy, folks.
Howdy, man. Well, walk me through this race. Did you honestly think you could make this whole run on one take and go fast?
So first and foremost, I want to thank the sponsor, Comrade Golf, Evan Hubchak. Thank you so much for letting us put on this show for y'all, and Dustin Bally as well. Shout out to him for organizing everything. But yeah, that was the slowest I could drive for the longest time. I really didn't think I was going to be able to save that fuel about halfway through, but at that point I kind of already committed. So a lot of clutching and on the straights and whatnot, but I was really trying my hardest to shorten the race by a lap. I don't know if that's like good sportsmanship or whatever, but it worked. I finished.
I'll tell you what, we go back to Indy on the Cup side of things. Keselowski almost pulled off a fuel mileage miracle where if you didn't get that caution, I think he may have done it. And then you come here on the sim and you're able to run this entire race on one tank, or I shouldn't say one tank, 75% fuel payload. What do you do inside the truck? How do you stretch it out like that? What is the secret? Please.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. I am a better fuel strategist than Brad Keselowski. Thank you very much. I appreciate that one. But yeah, a lot of clutching, a lot of you get punished so hard for wheel spin in this truck by first and foremost burning up the tires. But when you're on the fuel save strat, you're burning up all that fuel and not going anywhere, so it hurts that much more. But I was really just staring at that calculator the entire time and praying.
I gotta ask you, how much did you have at the end? Were you on fumes going across the start finish line, or were you still under power on your cool down lap?
Made it past the finish line, and then it started coughing. Did that little burnout there, and that was it. It barely had enough for a little smoke show.
Well, man, that is absolute fuel mileage mastery at its finest. It doesn't get any better than that. Obviously, we see what you're capable of doing. That's going to put everyone in this league on notice, number one. Number two, talk to me about the race conditions. And did this track really evolve and change over the course of this race? Or was it just a combination of really, how hard you drove the race truck? And once these tires started to fall off, that really seemed to be when these trucks really became a handful out there in competition for you.
Yeah, the benefit of running as slowly as you can is that you don't really burn up your tires so much. So on that last lap when we got the white flag, I still had a little bit extra in the tank at that point. I think I had enough to just cough along at 22 laps, but it ended up being 21, and I was able to use that last bit of gas to warm up the tires again and close that gap and definitively beat Dan Ott, my old arch nemesis.
Oh, man, I can tell you're fired up. I'm pumped up for you, man. Before we cut you loose, who do you want to thank who helps you get it done on the 53?
Yeah, that was an absolutely awesome run. Huge congrats to Brian and Aaron for their awesome wins as well. And a huge thank you to Itty Bit Better. You can check them out at ittybitbetter.com. And Homebrew Auto, you can give them a follow on Instagram for EV conversions and all that good stuff. But yeah, they help keep the lights on and keep the stream going. Check out the stream at twitch.tv/JBassBlast as well, if you want to watch me sweat in real time. And yeah, thanks so much to you guys for putting on this awesome show, and Palmer Golf and Dustin Bally for doing all the organizational sponsory things as well.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Bast was able to best the competition in the fuel mileage department. As some would say, he might have had a flux capacitor or Houdini on board in his truck tonight, as he was able to go the distance on the fuel he started the race with in a very convincing and well-deserving third-place podium finish. That is the driver of the 53, the one and only Jay Bast. Mike, back to you.
All right. Have our second place finish. Aaron, man, how's it going?
Going great.
Well, the night started a little rough there with some issues, but came down pit road, wound up running well enough to start mid-pack there. How was the race in this feature?
Oh, it was awesome. The issue I was having earlier was with my connection. There was some pretty bad thunderstorms around the area, so I wanted to stay out of the way at the start. I was not expecting for it to spit me out in first there when the with the hold at the beginning, but yeah, I pulled off and wanted to make it as fair as possible, so I didn't make it look like it was trying to do something nefarious. But once we got to the main event, I was able to take first in turn one, and I'm honestly surprised that stuck. I felt like I was going to lock the tires up, but that worked out, and I guess I missed a little bit of speed there before that first pit stop, and yeah, Brian got by me and held it.
Yeah, it seemed like as soon as you pulled down, Brian put his foot down to the floor as he ran the fastest laps of the race. The 2 laps immediately after you hit pit lane, but you were able to battle back, get P2. You still hang on to the championship lead. But how do you feel coming to a track like this, especially in the trucks?
Oh, it's awesome. I've done a few races in the stock cars here, so I was confident going into the race tonight. But when you have guys like Brian in the league who are also pretty quick, it's certainly difficult, but it's certainly fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season has to offer. We're at a super speedway next week, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Want to say
Looks like
New
I know.
Atlanta.
Yep. All right. Well, that'll be interesting in itself. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. We got Oschersleben after that. I think that's how you pronounce it. That'll be fun too. So we got a good rest of the season coming up.
Yeah, you guys definitely throw in some tracks that we're not used to seeing here up in the broadcast booth, but definitely a fun place to come and see you guys show what you can do in those trucks. Anybody you want to thank before we get you out of here tonight, Aaron?
I'd like to thank y'all for putting this broadcast on, and the folks at Road and Plate for putting the lead together, and Palm Rat Golf for supporting the league, and all the folks for watching, and all the folks in the field for sticking around. The car counts have been a little low lately, so hopefully we'll be able to get a few more guys in here for the rest of the season, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it has to offer.
Definitely, man. Well, congrats again on your P2 finish, and we will talk to you later in the season, man.
Alrighty, thank you.
All right. We can get the race winner in the booth for you, Matt. All right. Here you go, Matt.
Brian, Matt, and Mike, the money up in the 24 Paso Memorial booth. You got a copy there, brother.
Yep, I got you guys.
Well, hey, man, talk to me about this strategy that you came up with tonight, because clearly you had the right one from the drop of the green flag. How were you able to execute and put this race together? I know from, for some of us watching at home, it probably looked really easy. I know that wasn't the case, obviously, from your standpoint, but how were you able to make it look so simple every step of the way to a very nice, deserving, and almost dominating performance here once everyone cycled through the pit stops?
Well, everyone that pitted, yeah. I did the math, figured I was short about 7 liters. With the sort of fast and inside line on the pit lane, I didn't think it was worth it to save today. So went out there, was racing hard early on, trying to hang with Aaron. When I saw him pit, I figured he'd come out in some traffic, so I tried to throw in a couple hot laps and then pit after him. And luckily, I was talking to him. He said he got held up a little bit on one of his out laps, so that was the 1.5 seconds I needed to get out in front. And then
You
we
stole
just
the words right out of my mouth there, Brian, not to cut you off. The minute Aaron came down pit road, our timing of scoring started lighting up purple like crazy, which means you're throwing up the fastest laps of the race. And Mike DeMoney called it. He said he's out there trying to get all he can right there out on the racetrack. And that's exactly, what you were doing. And that was really the first time we seen the type of times that was capable, out of that Toyota. In your opinion, was that the difference? Is that what won you the race? Just that pace you were able to put up while he was on pit road, combined with Aaron getting hung up on his outlap?
well, yeah, the track position sure didn't hurt. It's not exactly hard to pass here, but it's not easy. So, that's what I was looking for, is the track position, and it paid off at the end, I think, for sure.
And then one more question for you, then I'll turn it over to you. You know, these downhill braking zones on this racetrack, it really seemed like once these tires got some heat in them or started to wear, that it was really tricky and almost treacherous out there at times. How were you able to navigate those sectors of the racetrack? And was it giving you a problem there at the end at all?
Oh, maybe just a little bit when I realized I was gonna have to race Jay at the end and Dan. They were out there fuel saving, and they still had really good pace. I think they took good care of their tires. So, yeah, patience and just a little extra pace there at the end. Yeah.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Brian, before I cut you loose, man, who do you want to thank who helps you get it done on the TRD4 machine?
I just want to thank Dustin for putting the road and plate together, and Palm Rat Golf for sponsoring it, and then you and Mike for calling the races. Appreciate it, guys.
Hey, man, we appreciate you and you guys putting on a heck of a performance each and every week, just like Brian Molitor did here tonight in prime time on SRN, as he was the man with the plan, able to have the pace and pit. Everything went his way. Had to be was a great race at the end of this, as Jay Bass was able to go the distance on a single tank of fuel, but it wasn't enough to hold off Brian Molitor as he comes out of Brazil with a win. Congratulations, man. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to send it back up top to Mike. Back to you.
Definitely, it was a show to be put on with only 13 drivers. The last, I'm going to say last 5 or so minutes when the top 4 were hooked up in competition, it definitely was something to watch. Brian Molitor was able to bring home the win. Aaron Smith held on for P2. Jay Bass and Dan Ott saved enough fuel to round out the top 4. Phil Keck tried something a little bit different, got 4 tires, but just was able to hang on for P5. Edgar Sancinelli, Laura Wiseman, Evan Hubschak, Samuel Stoner, Johnny Rapp round out that top 10. Ken Estep, Tom Wendt, and Nick Serif round out the field. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Matt?
I don't know who the heck is calculating the fuel mileage in Jay Bass Camp, but they need some type of award after the performance, not only from on top of the box, but the driver in the cockpit of that Toyota tonight. That was absolutely wild to see him pull that off. And I just love all the excitement. Clearly, you could tell that meant a lot to him in the interview. And that was another layer, that got added to all the drama and excitement out there on the racetrack. At the end of the day, Brian Molitor and Aaron Smith were able to do what we expected them to do. But I didn't think the field would be this close, especially a 4-way battle at the end of this thing for the win. Non-stop thrill action ride here from South America from the drop of the green flag, Mike.
Yeah, it definitely was. Look forward to seeing what these guys can do. They are at Atlanta next week, so I expect to see what they can do on an oval track, and then they'll head off to a couple other road tracks before closing out the season back at Daytona. But from all the drivers of the Road and Plate series, I want to thank Palm Rat Golf for the opportunity to broadcast this series. And from all of us here at Sim Racing Media, I want to wish you guys a good night, and we'll see you next time.